In this video, I want to explain to you why it is so hard and difficult to change in your identity level, to become a different person, to change your personality maybe even, And I want to still explain to you ways how I would approach a change on the identity level with a client. Okay, first of all, let's look why it is so hard to change. And for that, this is kind of a follow-up of my last video where I explained the neurological levels or the logical levels that a person is functioning on, that define a person. And you can see it here on the screen now. If you want, you can also look my last video first before watching this or continuing this now. I will link it up here. But basically this is about your identity being quite high in this hierarchy. There's some spirituality or mission that goes above you or beyond you, but this is not something that psychology or psychotherapy normally talks about. This is more Eastern philosophy and stuff like that, and there's a lot of value, I believe, but okay, this is not applicable for my strategies now and my explanations. Okay, so your identity defines what your needs are. For instance, if you say, my identity is that I'm a provider for my family. I'm a family man. That's who I am. I'm a father. And therefore your needs are for relationships, for attachment. And in order to fulfill these kinds of needs, you will have certain values, like you have more family values, traditional values maybe, values of masculinity and femininity, for instance, or you will have beliefs like, I must provide for my family, I must protect them, I must take care for them. That's my belief, that's my role, that's my identity, It all depends on each other. Therefore, you will have certain strategies, skills, and competencies. For instance, how to earn good money, how to perform in your job. Maybe you have some strategies to be dominant in your family relations and be the head of the family, the provider. Therefore, you show certain behavior, you make the calls, and you have a strong voice, and you speak very, very directly to people. That's maybe your visible behavior. That all connects basically on top with your identity. And therefore you will have certain contexts. For instance, you will be mostly in contexts where you fulfill your role of being the head of the family, of being the provider. And these are the contexts that you search for. But they all depend mainly on your identity, your perceived identity. That's who you are. And as you can see, if this person would want to change their identity, there's a lot of other layers that would have to change along. And this is why there is such a strong resistance. It's not just the identity, there's the whole life of this person. Everything that the person has built on, that the person defines itself on, would have to change along. And of course, this is the lived reality. This is the truth for the person. This is the best for them. So therefore, they cannot really be that flexible about it. They cannot just let it go and say, hey, maybe I'm someone else. Maybe I should be a monk and live in a monastery without any attachments. Therefore, it's incredibly hard for the person to let go of this identity, especially when the person doesn't know what else there is, what other identity there is waiting for them that is attractive for them. They have built and constructed everything around their identity, their whole mindset and belief system, value system. Everything is connected, and that makes it so hard to change. You would have to change everything on every level. And most people are afraid of the void, the emptiness that there might be if they would let go of the identity. And that's why it's not very helpful and not very efficient to make a change in identity by saying, hey, you have to let go of your old identity and become a new one. Be someone else. Be another person. This is not how it works in therapy. And therefore, I want to give you two perspectives now, how you could change step by step your identity level. So, most people believe my identity is like this. That's me, or the self. That's who I am. I have these strict boundaries around me that I cannot step out of. And it's maybe genetically predetermined. And I don't know anything else around this and aside of this. Of course, other people are different. That's fine. But I am who I am. And that's good like this. And I don't need to change. I rather need other people to adapt to me. You know, this is how most people think. Okay. And I will show you now a little bit a different view on this. So imagine you are still this kind of circle, but the circle is not closing. The circle turns rather into kind of a spiral. So there are more and more layers that can come to you and that can expand your identity. Of course, you still have your core that you have developed, and of course, you have genetical predispositions. And maybe 50%, maybe less of your personality is predetermined genetically, biologically. But still, you don't know how much and where it ends. You cannot know it. This is something you only figure out through experiences. And if you never challenge yourself outside of your comfort zone of your identity, you never find out where your actual boundaries are. So this is a model that I want to suggest to someone who wants to change on the identity level. That you have more layers and you can step by step expand your identity by putting on more layers, by doing stuff outside of your normal identity zone. And this is just one of the two perspectives. There's another perspective. And this is the hypnosystemic perspective that I prefer. That means you are not 100% one thing, like you're not 100%, to keep this example from earlier, you're not 100% the provider of the family. But you have a strong part inside of yourself. Let's make this in another color. You have the strong part inside of yourself that wants to provide for the family and sees yourself as a provider of the family. And this is a very dominant part. And there might be another part inside of you that is maybe a little bit outside of your original identity level. So this is something that you have to find out through experience and through understanding, through change in your consciousness, maybe consciousness level. Maybe you meet someone who has thought the same like you. I must be the only provider of my family. But this other person might have went through this kind of transformation and changed his view and said, hey, other family members can also provide for the family. It's not all relying on me. So he learned this through experience, or maybe by experiencing it with someone else and seeing, okay, someone else changed in this direction, so maybe I can change in this direction as well. But it's something he has not experienced yet, because that was his role as long as he can think of. So maybe he's changing his view and say, hey, yes, I'm a very big provider for my family, but there might be other family members who could provide as well. So he could change and learn this position and find out about it. And then it would be less pressure for him. And this is a big value of this, that you can still protect and keep your initial identity, but you can build on top of it. You can expand it, extend it with new parts of yourself that you might discover that are already inside of you, but that will get activated. And yeah, you will discover more and more of yourself. Let's just look at another example. Let's say you say, I'm a very irresponsible person. That's just who I am. I'm not responsible. I cannot do anything about it. And just imagine this person suddenly needs to provide for a family member or becomes a father or a mother. And suddenly there's a new side activated in this person, and suddenly he becomes responsible. He becomes less selfish in this moment. You can see this with a lot of people. When there's some fundamental change in their life, they become a new role. They also activate a side inside of them that adapts to the role. You know, we humans, we are very adaptive. We can adapt to new demands from the outside very easily. And why can we do it? Yeah, because we have it in ourselves. We just need some strong emotional experience. So this side will be triggered. Or let's assume you're a smoker. You know, you say, I'm a smoker, I'm never going to change, I'm never going to quit smoking. And then you get cancer, and suddenly you develop a side where you're not smoking anymore, and then you stop smoking. You know? So people can change, even on the identity level. They just need a good reason for it. They need a very significant emotional experience. Or let's assume you are a racist. And then suddenly, like, you have an opportunity to go to Africa and live with locals, with a tribe in Africa for 1 month. And you do that, and you come back home, and suddenly you're not racist anymore. I mean, it's still inside of you, the side, but you have developed a new side that is not racist. And you prefer to live through this new side now. This is how people change. They get new experiences outside their traditional belief system and identity level, and then they will adapt to it. And this is something just for you to understand. Everyone is kind of flexible to a certain degree. And in order to abandon this stubborn self-protection, it's important for the person to understand, hey, I don't need to completely let go of my identity. I just extend it. I just expand it. And then you will be less defensive about personal change, identity change, personal transformation, whatever you want to call it. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If so, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. If you need personal assistance, I will put my links down in the description so you can reach out to me, and see you next time.